Every C program has at least one function, that is main, and program execution always starts with main. But there can be other functions also. Function is in general a group of statements arranged to perform a specified task. A very big C program, if divided into small functions, then it becomes very much easy for handling, debugging, writing, everything. Function is also called as method or procedure or subroutine. So there are two types of basically functions, library functions and user defined functions. Library functions are already written functions. In the header files, the functions are written. We have to include the header file and use the functions directly. But as per our need, we can write our own functions. They are user defined functions. User means we have written the functions, so they are user defined functions. Because of functions, if you want to do some part of the program again and again, you need not write it again. Write it only once and just call the function. This function can be called anywhere, anytime in the program. So any function can call any other function. If the program is written in different functions form, it is divided, then it is easy to understand and debug also. If you write a functions, then all these functions you can put in library and include in your program. There is one type of functions known as recursive functions. These functions call themselves. Then we have to write the function in a proper format to use it. The format of function is, first you have to give the return data type, then name of the function and list of arguments, and then the statements within the braces. So name of the function is the like a variable name. You can give any name. This function operates on the numbers. These numbers are called arguments. The arguments may be passed from the calling function to the called function. And after operations in the function may return the answer. This list of arguments and return data type, they are optional. It depends whether you want to use them or not. So suppose you want to add the two numbers, then the two numbers integer a and integer b may be. They are the arguments. Name of the function could be addition, and the result of that will be the sum, and sum will be returned to the main program. Now every function may not require arguments or return any value. Return value can be only one value. You cannot return more than one value from the function. And when the return statements executes, the program is transferred to the calling function. Program execution transferred to the calling function. And in a function, there can be multiple return statements depending upon the conditions. But when one return statement executes, immediately the function execution stops and program control is transferred. You can write function before the main or after the main. If you write the function before main, then you have to completely define the function, whatever it is. If you want to write the function after main, then you have to just declare it before the main. While declaring, you have to give the return data type, function name, and whatever integer, float, whatever is the type of arguments, and then a semicolon. But when you define a function, the semicolon is not necessary. When you declare a function before main, the semicolon is necessary. These are just the syntax rules. So when a function is defined, it is in this format, function is defined. Int, this int is the return value. Addition is the name of the function. Integer a, integer b, they are the arguments or parameters on which the function operates. The function requires this sum, that is required variables by the function. They are declared within the function. Then the statement of the function, where whatever operation is done, and the answer of operation is returned to the main program. So in this way, the function is written. For every function, whatever are the statements to be executed, they are always placed in the curly bracket. So optionally, function can have no arguments, no return value. So if there are no arguments, then this bracket will be the empty. And if there is no return value, then instead of int, you can write down void also. Then the function can have arguments but no return value. So here you have to place the arguments, but here it can be void. Function can have no arguments, so this is empty, but return value, integer, float, whatever it is. And function can have both arguments and return value. So there are different types of functions. When a function is to be used, then the function has to be called. So any other function, for example main, can call the function returned by user. When the function is called, just you have to write down the name, and within the braces we have to provide the variables if we want to send the arguments. If there are no arguments, then the braces will be empty. When you send the parameters or arguments, when the calling function is sending, at that place the parameters are called actual parameters, and the called function receives these parameters, they are called as formal parameters. Actual parameters and formal parameters, they are placed at different memory locations. So when you call a function, suppose delay function is there and you want 500 millisecond delay, then delay 500. If you want to add the two numbers, then addition a and b. In this way you can set. Function can be called in two ways: call by value and call by reference. Call by value means within the bracket here actual values of the parameters are sent, and call by reference means the addresses of the parameters are sent. So what is the difference between them? When you call by value, what happens is, as the actual values are sent there, they are copied there. So the formal parameters and actual parameters have the different memory locations. So if any changes are done at formal parameters, they are not reflected at actual parameters. This is the case. So you have to get them as a return value. In case of call by reference, the addresses of the variables are sent. So what happens is, addresses of actual parameters and formal parameters are same. So when the actual parameters address is sent and at the function any changes are done, then the same changes retained there when you come back to the original function which call. Okay, so we have got enough information. Now let's use this information using the our compiler. So let's convert, let's write a program to convert the temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So integer, first write down the program, then understand how to convert the same program into the function, how to use the same program into the function. So the temperature in centigrade be C, temperature in Fahrenheit be F. Okay, so I will write this as a float better, because float can take integer but integer cannot take float. So printf enter temperature in Celsius. Enter temperature in Celsius. So user will enter the temperature in Celsius. Now we have to read this. %f and C. Now we have to convert. We know the relationship. The temperature in Fahrenheit is equal to 9 C, 9 star C divided by 5 minus 32 is the conversion. So printf, actually for this simple calculation nobody writes the function, but we are here trying to understand that how the function works. So we'll write the function for this. temperature in Fahrenheit is percent F, and let's say degrees, so degrees. Okay, now let's first run this program. Normally function is written if something is to be repeated again and again, or percent F, wrong here. Still wrong here. Enter temperature in Celsius. Suppose I enter 45. I get the temperature in Fahrenheit is this. Okay. Suppose I rerun the program. Temperature is 32. The answer is this. So we get this. Normally function is written if some complicated calculations are there, or if some part of program is to be repeated again and again. Now let's write this as a function. So let's name a function as, the function will return float. The function initially consider the function, suppose C2F is the name of the function, and it needs suppose no variables. First case we will understand the simplest case, that is no arguments, no return value. No arguments, no return value. So everything will be done in the function. So whatever program was written with main, the same program will be written here with the value return 0 or any value 0. We are not returning anything. And in the main function, we will just call the function C2F and no arguments passed, so nothing. So main function is calling this function. So execution will start with main. Here the main will be executed. This function is called. So control of program execution goes here. This program will be executed and it will come back here. No arguments are passed. No return value has changed. Let's run. Same thing will happen. Suppose I enter 0. 0 degrees means 32 degrees. 32 degrees. Sorry. This is plus 32. This is plus 32. There, it was wrong. Because 0 means some values we always remember. 0 means 32. 100 means 212. And minus 40 at Celsius as well as Fahrenheit has the same value. And normally body temperature hour, suppose 37 approximately, it is about 98, 99. So it is giving correct answer now. Initially it was wrong. Sorry for that. Now this function is written here. No arguments, no return value, and it is working fine. Now let's consider that we'll send the argument but no return value. So we will send the arguments means this part we have to cover in the main program. So in the main program we will get the value, and this value of C we will send as an argument. This value of C is sent as an argument. So this function needs the value, and it needs the value float C. So it will get the value float C. And this function does not know F. So F should not be declared there, but float F has to be declared here. Otherwise it will say that the function does not know anything about F. So here float C is defined. It is taken from the user, and then a function is called by sending the parameter to the function, and the control is transferred. This function starts executing, it gets the value of C and it defines the value of F, calculates the value of F, and it will send the answer to us. So let's run this. Temperature in Celsius, suppose 30, 86, so whatever answer is coming, that is coming. Okay, let's check this. 0, 32, correct. Now next type, that we are sending the argument and we are getting the return value also. So we have sent the arguments. So here this will calculate this F and now it will send the return value. So return value of this function is float. So we must say here that float, return value is float. And instead of printing it here, it will not print here, but the print statement will be executed in the main function. So after calling the function, it will print. And this function will send F. So try to understand it again. Program execution starts with main. Float C is defined here. Enter temperature in Celsius, so it gets the temperature in Celsius. We call this function. We call this function, the function control goes here. The function calculates the value of F and it returns the value of F. Now when it returns the value of F, this value when you call, it should be equated to F. So we must define F here, because otherwise whatever is the return value has no reference in the main function. So F is equal to the answer of this function. So whenever any value is returned from the function, it must be used in the function. So either you can equate it here or you can directly use the function here also. That is also allowed. Okay. So F is equated here. Let's run the program. Enter temperature in Celsius, suppose 100. Suppose I enter 50. It is giving the answer. So here we are sending the arguments, we are getting the return value also. Now the next type, arguments are not sent, but the return value has got. In that case, from this part it is correct, but this part has to be used in the main. So float C and F are defined here. It will take the temperature, convert into Fahrenheit, and Fahrenheit will be sent here. So no arguments are sent here. So this will be empty. This will be empty. So C does not have any reference here, but the return value has the reference. Return value has the reference because this is returning the F and it should have the reference. So the main execution starts. It defines float F and immediately calls the function. Function starts. In the function C and F both are defined. It will enter the temperature in Celsius, it will get the temperature, it will convert into F and immediately. So let's do the next part, that enter temperature in Celsius, suppose 46, yes, temperature in Fahrenheit. So we have seen all the 4 types of functions. Now we can have more than one function also. Suppose we want to add the 2 numbers and we want to get the multiplication of 2 numbers also. Then actually in a single function you can do that. But if you want to study how to write 2 functions and how they are executed one after another, for that let's define this. Okay. So let's define integer a is equal to suppose 10 and b is equal to suppose 25. I just take any 2 values. Now we have to add the 2 numbers and we have to multiply the 2 numbers, and for that we are writing the function. So first function will be suppose add, and we'll send the values a and b. So this is the first function. Functions, when they are called, multiple functions are there, then in the order they called, they are used. Next is product you want. So suppose product A comma B will be the product of two numbers. Now we have to define these two numbers, these two functions. So first let us define the function add. So int add, it will require two integers. So int, it is not necessary that the names used for the functions, for the variables in the main function and the variables names in the functions need not be same, because their addresses are different. So when you are sending at A and B, the function may read as x and y also. So integer x comma integer y. These are the two values read by the function. Now this function will generate sum. So we have to define int sum here. Integer sum is the required by this function. Okay. Now here the sum will be generated. Sum is equal to A plus B. Sorry, x plus y, because here they are x and y. X plus y. So x plus y sum is generated, and this function will return this value of sum. So return sum. Return sum. Okay. Now this function is the add function. I am writing in this way because I want you to see the complete program on a single screen without any scrolling. Now we will define another function, integer product. This will also have values. Suppose int m. I am purposely writing this way, and this function will generate a product. So here we have to define product. Let us call this as, say, product, PROD, because the name of the function and name of the variable should not be same. Now it will generate a product. PROD is equal to m star n, and it will return this value. So return product. After return semicolon. So this is the another function. So this is one function, this is another function, and this is the main function. In main function, two values are defined. They are send for add and product. Now let's printf sum equal to %d \t. Suppose we will print sum and product both in a single statement, and product equal to %d. Okay, and we will print here sum and product. Sum and product. Now A and B here are different. Here sum and product. Here also we can have another names, and we can have same names also. So let us use one name as same, suppose sum, and let us use another name as different, for example. Okay, another name as different. So instead of product, I will just say multiply. Mult is also multiplication. In that case, you must write here mult. Now sum and mult are the variables in this function. They are not related to functions. So whenever you call the functions and the functions are returning the value, you must allocate the values there. So sum is equal to addition of AB, and here mult is equal to product of AB. Okay, this way you have to write down. semicolon missing. Let's run the program. So sum is 35, product is 250. Fine. In this way, you can have multiple functions, and in the order they are called, they will be executed. So initially main will be here. These are defined. Then this function is called. So this is executed. Then this is called. Then this is executed. It will come back again and then print the same. So how the program flow will be there? First main, then add function, then product function, and then again back to main and execute this statement. Okay. Now let me show you one more thing. When you passed values to other function, they are not retained in that function. So let us say A and B are 25. Let's keep the same values and let's print these values. Just don't calculate here. Print these values. So printf A equal to %d \tab for space, B equal to %d, and the values A and B, comma A and B, comma B, and bracket complete. So will be printed. Immediately this value is printed. So let's we say that before function, before function calling, before any function. Now let's write a function here. In that function we'll change the values of A and B. So int fun, suppose the name of the function is fun, and fun will get int A comma int B. In this we will have some other values. So let's say that A equal to any other value. A is equal to 20 and B is equal to suppose 50. We could have multiplied A and B by C, and it will just return 0. It is return 0. So 0. The function will return 0. Okay. Now what we have understood here is we have defined A and B and their values are 10 and 25. Now let's call the function. So fun A comma B. When you say fun A comma B, the function is called and the values of A and B are transferred here. These values will be taken here. Okay. So let's print the values there. Printf the same values. Printf and these values are printed when they are in the function. So instead of before, let's see within function. Within function the values are these. Now here the function is called. After the function, what are the values? That we'll see. After the function, what are the values? That we'll see. Okay. Every time let's put \n so that everything will be printed on the next line. \n. So here A and B are 25. We know that here 25 will be printed. Now function is called. Within the function there are 20 and 50. So we think that here A and B will be 20 and 50. Now we have come back. So what we expect is here the values of A and B should be changed 20 and 50. Now let's check what happens here. Before function 10 and 25, correct. Within function 20 and 50, correct. See this, after function again 10 and 25. So within function actually they are changed, but the change is not reflected here. This is because we are calling the function with values. So values of a and b in main function and values of a and b in the fun function, they have separate addresses. So the changes are not reflected. If you want the changes to be reflected, then these variables should be defined as global. Now what is this local global? Local means normally when we define the variables, they are always local or automatic. The function's lifetime is variable's lifetime is corresponding to that function. When function execution starts, variables arise. When function execution stops, the variables get diminished, they are off. So this a and b will have lifetime here, this a and b will have lifetime here. So they are the local variables, they are only for those functions. If we define them global, then their value gets retained. Okay, so let's try this. Write it here. So define integer a and b here. Okay, now try this execution. So define int ab here, then you don't need to define here, you don't need to send also here because they are global variables. You just define them as a global variable. So within, when main starts, they will have value a, this. Then fun will be called, then it will have these values. After fun, the value should retain because they are global variables. So let's run this. Yes, before function 1025, within function 2050, and when come back from function, again it retains the value 2050. So if you want to use the variables within many functions, then they should be defined as global. And if you want to use the variables within that function only, then they should be defined as the local variables. The function is defined here, their values are changed in the functions. Okay.